I'm tired of supporting this parasite. Take our daughter and go back to your parents' house," he says, looking tired but with a creepy, lewd grin on his face. My husband, who uttered these words, just wants to see me in trouble and enjoy it. He tells me to go back to my parents' house, but he'd be the one in trouble if I actually did. When we first got married, he was a kind husband. But at some point, his personality became twisted and he started hurling abuse at me and our daughter without hesitation. Still, I continued living with him because I still had some family affection left. I believed that one day he would change. But it seems too late now. My husband, who calls me a parasite and laughs as if he's enjoying it. I can't stay with him any longer. I close my eyes for a moment, making up my mind. Then, I look straight at my husband and launch my counterattack. My name is Sarah, a 62-year-old. I live with my husband Ethan, whom I've been married to for 40 years, and our 32-year-old daughter Emily. We live in a house owned by my in-laws. My father-in-law passed away 25 years ago, and my mother-in-law 20 years ago. We used to be a family of 5, but now we're down to 3, and the old house feels a bit spacious. Emily is still unmarried and does housework while working from home, which is a big help for me since I'm busy with work on weekdays. Ethan took over his parents' company and was managing it, but the company went bankrupt when Emily was in elementary school. After that, he got a job at an acquaintance's company and has been working there. To be honest, Ethan's salary is well below average, so Emily and I are working to make ends meet. Both Emily and I earn a decent amount of money. However, Ethan says things like, "Women's work isn't that big of a deal anyway, right?" He doesn't understand at all that we're able to live our current life thanks to us, and he looks down on us. On top of that, even though I work full-time, Ethan somehow mistakenly believes that I'm a part-timer. I work at a factory of a certain company, but Ethan seems to think that factory work is simple and anyone can do it. Some jobs may be simple, but mine is not something that just anyone can do. No matter how many times I explain this to him, Ethan refuses to understand. Furthermore, Ethan apparently thinks that Emily, who needs to work on a computer all day due to the nature of her job, is just playing around on the computer and is unemployed. I've explained this to him many times, but Ethan has decided that our daughter is unemployed and looks down on her. She's old enough but doesn't get married, just stays at home and plays all day. We really failed at raising her. He says such things right in front of her without hesitation. At first, Emily would talk back to him, but lately, she just gives him a tired glance. Her face says it's pointless to say anything to him. In this manner, Ethan has convinced himself that he is at the top of the household and has deemed us beneath him, hurling abuse at us. He seems to think that as the man, he is the breadwinner of the family and deserves to be respected. Of course, Ethan wasn't like this when we first got married. I think he was probably influenced by his father. My father-in-law was the epitome of a domineering husband and treated my mother-in-law like a servant. Before we got married, Ethan despised his father for being like that. But once he got married himself, he started doing the same things as his father. It got worse year by year, and now that he's in his 60s, it's become unbearable. What should I do? I spent my days sighing more and more, unable to come up with a solution. Then, one day, something happened. That day, an unexpected job came in, and I ended up coming home quite late. The client had mistakenly set the desired delivery quantity too low and asked if we could somehow make up for the shortage. It was a pretty unreasonable request, but since they were a client we had a good relationship with, it was decided that all employees would work at full capacity to deal with it. Emily also had a rare meeting with a client outside the house, so the only one at home was Ethan, who had finished work early and returned. Immediately after it was confirmed that I would be working overtime, I contacted Ethan and told him that I would be late today, so he should prepare dinner himself. After that, I became busy with work, and I was finally able to return home close to 10 p.m. Looking at the parking space at home, I could see that Emily's car wasn't there, indicating that she hadn't come home yet. I was busy, but it seemed like Emily was having an even harder time, so I opened the front door while worrying about my daughter. "I'm home." "You're late. Where have you been hanging out until now?" As soon as I got home, without even a chance to catch my breath, I was pestered by Ethan, whose face was red with anger. Tired, I unintentionally frowned as I answered. "Where?" "At work. I contacted you, didn't I?" "I didn't see any such contact. If you're going to be late, properly let me know by phone." I sent a message because I didn't have time to call, but even if I said that, Ethan probably wouldn't be satisfied. "It must be nice to be able to hang out until this hour without even making dinner. Hurry up and make me something to eat." "Huh? You haven't eaten yet? Even though I contacted you to prepare it yourself." Even if he hadn't seen my message, normally, if I didn't come home until this hour, he would prepare dinner himself. However, it seems that the very idea of preparing dinner himself doesn't exist in Ethan's mind. Preparing meals is a woman's job, isn't it? I almost felt like holding my head in my hands at Ethan's self-centered and outdated statement. "Hey, I can hear Dad shouting from outside." Just as I was at a loss for words, Emily came home at the perfect timing. Emily looked at Ethan with cold eyes and opened her mouth. "Do you know what time it is? If you make any more noise, the neighbors might call the police again." Once, when I came home late at night after a class reunion, Ethan yelled at me in a voice that echoed throughout the neighborhood. I had properly informed him that I would be coming home late, but he didn't like that I had been out enjoying myself, so he hurled abuse at me as he saw fit. Apparently, Ethan's heated voice had echoed throughout the neighborhood. A neighbor's wife who was worried about me called the police, and the officers who rushed over scolded Ethan severely. Remembering that time, Ethan's tone immediately softened, and he retreated to the back of the house, mumbling complaints. "Emily, thank you." "No problem. I bought some pizza, so let's eat together." "Oh, thank you. That's a big help." Though exhausted, I smiled, happy about Emily's thoughtfulness. 2 weeks after that incident, I was meeting up with a high school friend for the first time in a while and had arrived at the station where we were supposed to meet. "Olivia, long time no see." "Sarah. I've missed you." The one smiling at me was Olivia, my best friend from high school. Unlike me, she was a reliable person who went to a university with a high deviation value and worked hard while raising children. After giving birth to Emily, I took a break from work for a while, but I had to take care of both housework and childcare by myself, so I ended up quitting. Ethan didn't care about me at all, even though I was busy with childcare and housework, and continued to do as he pleased. Remembering that time still brings back bitter feelings. Fortunately, my mother-in-law, who was suffering under a domineering husband, helped me, and I was able to get through that difficult period. Olivia also often came to my place and did the housework for me when I was too exhausted to move. If it weren't for my mother-in-law and Olivia, I would have been done for long ago. I can never thank them enough. And after my child-rearing duties had settled down, I started working at my current workplace. But what's going on all of a sudden? You're always busy with work, Olivia, and now you suddenly want to see me. We entered a nearby coffee shop, and I asked, tilting my head. Then Olivia said with a wry smile, "Actually, I got divorced. I wanted to report that to you, so I came to see you today." "What?" Olivia's ex-husband seemed like a kind and easygoing person, and it appeared that he balanced out the reliable Olivia. However, according to Olivia, her ex-husband wasn't kind, but indecisive, and even important decisions were left up to her. "When my husband was about to retire, I thought about how I would have to take care of him for the rest of my life, and I really didn't like the idea. He never did any housework and left everything to me, even when our children were young. Thanks to that, our children still keep their distance from him even now that they're adults. They were happy when I said I was getting divorced. I had no idea. I thought that even households that seem to be doing well have various struggles behind the scenes." Then Olivia's face turned a bit worried, and she looked straight at me. "What about you, Sarah? Is everything going well?" At this question, I hesitated to speak. That alone seemed to convey it to Olivia. Don't push yourself too hard. If anything happens, I'll always be there to help. Oh, okay, thank you. After that, we went shopping together, ate delicious food, and had a good time. On the way home, I kept recalling Olivia's words in my mind. Until now, I had never considered divorce. To be honest, Ethan can't really be called a good husband. But since we got married once, I had somehow decided that we would stay together for life. I'm a bit confused now that the topic of divorce has come up so close to home, but still, the option of divorce doesn't exist for me yet. Ethan's in that state now, but maybe his personality will mellow out a bit once he retires and starts staying at home more. With that hope in mind, I opened the front door. I'm home. However, what awaited me when I got home were the arguing voices of Ethan and Emily. Stop being unemployed and wandering around, and get a proper job. Don't think we're gonna take care of you forever. I told you, I am properly working from home. And I don't remember ever being taken care of by you, Dad. Hey, what are you doing? I hurriedly step in between the two. When Emily sees my face, she gets a startled look and closes her mouth. Ethan still can't calm his anger and glares at Emily with sharply raised eyes. Emily, let's talk, just the two of us. Leaving Ethan, who's making a ruckus, I take Emily to another room. Emily lets out a big sigh and speaks with an exasperated look. I was working at home, and Dad started making a fuss about preparing a meal. I told him to wait a bit because I was busy, and he lost it. He tried to break my computer, so we got into an argument. I think I've reached my limit living with Dad. Saying that, she looks at me with a slightly distorted face. I've stayed in this house until now because I was worried about leaving you behind, Mom. But it seems like my personality and Dad's are a total mismatch. I don't think I can stay together any longer. Something like today might happen again. If my work tools get destroyed, I might not be able to hold back and end up hitting him. I'm thinking of renting a place somewhere and living alone. I see. Imagining Emily leaving this house, my heart sinks. I've been relying on Emily so much until now. Not just with housework and daily life, but more than anything, she's been supporting me emotionally. What will happen to me if Emily, who's been like that, is gone? Mom, you should think about your own life too. Why don't you leave with me? I couldn't give any response to Emily's words. 1 week after that incident, Emily is steadily progressing with her packing. At this rate, she can probably leave any time. However, Ethan doesn't seem to have noticed at all that his daughter is preparing to leave because of him. Since then, I've been keeping my distance from Ethan. Until now, whenever Ethan complained about something, I would silently do as he said. That was the best way to get by without making waves. But now, a change is happening in my heart. On the other hand, Ethan seems quite irritated with me for not listening to him as usual. And today, Ethan finally resorted to an outrageous method. I'm tired of supporting this parasite. Take our daughter and go back to your parents' house. What he thrust at me while saying that was a blank divorce form. Ethan slammed it down on the table and said in a pompous tone, If you don't want a divorce, respect me more. You've been getting cheeky lately, haven't you? Know your place as a wife. You probably wouldn't be able to survive if you divorced me, would you? Well, I don't mind either way, but if you really insist, I won't divorce you. It seems Ethan is trying to use divorce as a shield to make me obey him. The me of the past probably would have followed what Ethan said. But the current me is different from the me of the past. I have already made up my mind. I smile at Ethan, who's grinning. It seems Ethan mistook my smile as a sign that his demand had been accepted. Don't ever go against me again. However, without responding to that, I take out a certain item from the bag placed nearby. Here's the divorce paper. I'm glad I won't have to support you anymore. What? What I handed to Ethan while unintentionally laughing was a divorce paper. What? What is this? What do you mean? It's the same thing you just handed me, isn't it? I was thinking about when to bring it up, but I'm glad you mentioned it first. Ethan looks at the divorce paper I handed him with a flabbergasted expression. Then, as if realizing something, he gets a startled look and opens his mouth in confusion. Wait a minute! You said something about not having to support me anymore. What does that mean? What does it mean? You were my dependent, weren't you? If I divorce you, you'll be removed from my dependents, so my take-home pay will increase and it'll help me out. Actually, Ethan had become my dependent after his parents' company went bankrupt. After losing the company, Ethan was unemployed for a while. Since paying insurance premiums and taxes seemed like it would strain our household finances, he was added as a dependent of me, who was already working at the time. By the way, at the company I joined after Emily's childcare duties had settled down, I was just a part-timer at first. However, by some coincidence, it seemed like the job suited me, and even as a part-timer, I kept producing results one after another. And a year after joining the company, I was promoted from a part-timer to a full-time employee. After that, I kept getting promoted, and currently, I'm serving as the assistant factory manager. Ethan has no interest in my work and seems to be under the mistaken impression that I've been a part-timer the whole time, but I'm in a fairly high position within the company. However, Ethan says something unbelievable. Huh? What are you talking about? I'm properly working at a company. You're the one who's my dependent. I'm the one supporting you. What? What are you saying? You're not a full-time employee. You're treated as a part-timer, and you only earn within the dependence limit, don't you? Surprised by this, I unintentionally raised my voice and retorted. Come to think of it, I remember something from the past. When adding Ethan as my dependent, I did explain it to him properly. However, Ethan said, "Oh, I hate that kind of complicated talk. If there's some procedure to do, you handle it on your own," and completely dumped the procedures on me. I wonder how he managed to run a company like this, but I realize this is why it went bankrupt. In the first place, after his father passed away, Ethan took over the company, but in reality, his mother was in charge of management. According to Ethan, he left all the complicated matters entirely to his mother. After the company went bankrupt, Ethan has been working part-time at an acquaintance's company, but his acquaintance must have mentioned the dependent situation when he joined. However, Ethan didn't know he was my dependent, so he probably just let his acquaintance's talk go in one ear and out the other. Realizing anew how ignorant of common sense this person is, I hold my head in my hands. At the same time, I genuinely thought it was good that I had made the decision to divorce. What triggered my decision to divorce was Olivia's divorce. At the time, I thought divorce didn't exist as an option for me, but it seems the word divorce had always remained in my heart without me noticing. And then the incident with Emily happened, and the idea of divorce that I had tucked away came to the surface. After deciding to divorce, I contacted Olivia. Olivia listened to my story and promised to introduce me to a lawyer who's good at handling divorces. I relied on this person too, but they're very dependable. They have a proven track record and are skilled, so you can leave it to them with peace of mind. Thank you, Olivia. I don't know how to express my gratitude. It's okay, don't worry about it. If there's anything else I can do, don't hesitate to rely on me. When you successfully get divorced, let's have a toast together. I was encouraged by Olivia's cheerful voice on the other end of the phone. After that, I proceeded with preparations for divorce while receiving advice from Olivia. I had already told Emily that I was getting divorced, but the moment the word divorce came out of my mouth, Emily smiled with a very happy look. I'm glad. I was only worried about leaving you behind, Mom. And hey, I want you to look at this. What Emily took out was a flyer for a certain condo. This is a bit old, but the rooms are spacious and I think it's just right for 2 people to live in. It's close to your workplace too, what do you think? Want to live together in this room? At Emily's proposal, I almost felt like crying. Unlike me who was spacing out, my daughter is reliable and had been preparing various things in anticipation of this situation. I nodded firmly back at Emily. So, I'm gonna leave with Emily. You'll be removed from my dependents, so from now on, you'll have to pay for everything yourself. That being said, Ethan has only been earning a little until now. He's employed at an acquaintance's company, but he's been treated as a part-timer for many years, and it'll be difficult for him to become a full-time employee from now on. Even if he increases his workdays, the salary Ethan can receive as a part-timer is limited. It would be good if he can manage with the salary he receives, but for Ethan, who has never managed household finances before, that would be more difficult than running a company. In other words, being removed from my dependents is a pretty tough situation for Ethan. Since Ethan didn't know he was listed as a dependent, I don't think he fully understands the gravity of the matter, but he seems to realize that things have turned bad, and his face gradually turns pale. Even if I'm your dependent like you say, I have my own house. I won't have trouble finding a place to live, and I'll manage my life somehow. I unintentionally let out a sigh of exasperation, thinking he really didn't understand properly after all. By the way, the house Ethan is referring to is this house we're currently living in, but it originally belonged to his parents and is quite old. It's falling apart everywhere, and there are many parts that could break down at any moment. The cost of repairing the house would be a considerable amount, but I wonder if Ethan can pay that money. Unable to think that deeply, Ethan continued to hurl abusive words at me. Even if you work and earn money, there's no way you can support an unemployed, unmarried daughter by yourself. I'm telling you now, I'm not gonna take in that good-for-nothing. You can support that useless bum. Emily has been living in this house all along. Even though he should have been watching our daughter by his side all this time, does Ethan really not know anything? I, the fool, finally realized that he had so little interest in us. We'll become people unrelated to Ethan from now on, but I have to correct his rude perception of Emily. I absolutely can't allow my precious daughter to be disrespected like this. I slowly opened my mouth, putting anger into my words. What are you saying? She's a famous illustrator. Your annual income is only about a month's worth of earnings for her. At these words, Ethan freezes with a creepy grin on his face. He doesn't seem to understand what I'm saying. Not minding Ethan like that, I continue. Also, she has a boyfriend. They've been dating for about 5 years now. She says they won't get married for a while, but apparently her partner is a rising star at a major publishing company that she met through work. Here, Ethan finally wipes the grin off his face and makes the most surprised expression possible, opening his eyes wide. She had a boyfriend? She didn't tell me anything. Remember when she was dating a high school classmate and you teased her relentlessly? She really hated that, and it seems she decided not to tell you anything since then. Even without a parent's biased view, Emily is a beautiful girl and was quite popular since her student days. One day, Ethan spotted her coming home with her high school boyfriend. After that, Ethan teased Emily relentlessly despite her hating it. I was absent due to work, so I heard about it later from Emily, but if I had been there, I would have scolded Ethan. Getting all sexy, you've grown up too, huh? I think it's disgusting for a father to say such things with a creepy, lewd grin, not just for a teenage girl. In fact, when I heard the story from Emily, I felt quite disgusted with my own husband. Ethan didn't think too deeply about it and apparently teased Emily despite her hating it, but for Emily, that incident remains a horrible memory even now. The reason you didn't hear anything from Emily is because she didn't trust you. I didn't do anything wrong. Anyway, there's no way I can believe her monthly salary is the same as my annual income. As I sigh at Ethan, who's making a ruckus, I display a certain website on my phone and show it to him. This is an interview article about her. If you do a little research, you'll see how famous an illustrator she is. Ethan stares intently at the website and opens his mouth wide. Sweat gradually appears on his face, and he finally seems to understand that what I'm saying is true. No way! I can't believe she's such a celebrity! Ethan mutters blankly, as if in shock. He seems unable to accept the fact that we, whom he had been looking down on, are actually in a higher position than him. You said earlier that I'd be in trouble if I divorced you, but to be honest, neither Emily nor I would be in any trouble at all. We earn more than enough money to support ourselves, and we're not like you, unable to take care of ourselves at this age. There's not a single thing that would trouble us if we got divorced. If anything, we're thinking it'd be a relief to have one less burden in you. At these words from me, Ethan shows a momentary angry face. He tries to spew abusive words at me as usual, but Ethan now understands that I'm in a higher position than him. Therefore, he can't make his usual condescending remarks and can only mumble. Just when I thought he was looking down and thinking for a while, he suddenly puts on a smile and says this with a flippant attitude. "I was just joking earlier." Huh? I unintentionally let out a dumbfounded voice, but it can't be helped. Ethan thrust the divorce paper at me, tried to threaten me and make me obey him, and then claimed it was a joke. Saying such horrible things and then turning it into a joke when things don't go his way is way too self-centered. Anger wells up inside me, but Ethan doesn't notice. "A lot of things happen when you've been married for a long time. This is just one of them. Let's both forget about the divorce thing, okay?" Ethan refuses to admit his faults and insists it's mutual. Seeing Ethan making such a pathetic excuse to protect his pride, my anger reaches its limit. "Don't mess with me." Huh? What joke? Even if you say it's a joke, I've been serious from beginning to end. I glare at Ethan. It seems my overflowing anger shows on my face, and Ethan's face contorts in fear. "Since you still don't seem to get it, I'll say it clearly. I've come to utterly despise you. I don't have a shred of affection left for you anymore. Right now, I want to divorce you and become strangers as soon as possible." I had never said such harsh words to Ethan before. Therefore, he seems to be quite shocked. He's trembling as he listens to my words. "Marrying you was the biggest mistake of my life, but thanks to that, I'm grateful that I was able to become family with a wonderful daughter like Emily. But that's it. I can't bear being married to you for even a minute or second longer. It makes my skin crawl." As I say that, I thrust the divorce papers at Ethan once more. "Hurry up and fill this out. You're gonna leave me all alone," Ethan shouts in a desperate voice. "Even if I'm left alone and feel lonely, you don't care at all. You married me because you liked me, didn't you? Even if your partner ends up living a miserable life, you don't feel sorry for me at all." No, I don't feel sorry for you at all. I don't sympathize with you either. After we get divorced, I couldn't care less what happens to you. It's true that I married Ethan because I liked him, but affection isn't infinite. Over the long married life with Ethan, my affection had disappeared long ago. Still, the reason I stayed with Ethan was because I didn't have the option of divorce in my mind. I had unconsciously convinced myself that once you get married, you stay together until the end. But my foolish choice ended up making Emily suffer. And I myself was suffering without realizing it. I'm amazed at my own stupidity for only realizing this at this age. That's why I don't want to make a mistake in my life from now on. In order for me to start a new life, I absolutely have to divorce Ethan. To deliver the final blow to Ethan, I slowly open my mouth and say, "I was living with you all this time out of mere inertia." "Inertia? How could you?" Ethan, completely rejected by me, kneels down on the spot with a look of despair. Tears are pouring from his eyes, and he doesn't seem to have the energy to wipe them away. "So, sign this, okay?" But without paying any mind to Ethan like that, I smile and thrust the divorce papers at him once more. After that, I tried to get Ethan to fill out the divorce papers, but he refused while crying. Having no choice, I decided to have another discussion with the lawyer Olivia introduced me to. I hadn't been able to get divorced yet, but I didn't want to stay with Ethan any longer, so I quickly packed my things and moved to a new place with Emily. However, on the day Emily and I were leaving, Ethan cried and tried to stop us. "Please, reconsider." No, absolutely not. Maybe he thought he couldn't get through to me, so Ethan shouted at Emily. "You're not gonna leave your dad all alone, right? You're a good girl, aren't you?" Treating a 30-year-old adult like a child, I was taken aback, but Emily coldly rejected Ethan. This is your own fault, isn't it? I mean, you've said terrible things to me all this time, and now you have the nerve to say that? You told me to get out right now, you unemployed good-for-nothing, didn't you? I did what you wanted, so what are you unhappy about? That was meant to be a joke. There are things in this world that can't be brushed off as a joke. I hope you learned your lesson. Leaving those words behind, without giving Ethan a single glance, Emily got in the car with me. Wait for me. We left the house we had lived in for many years without looking back once. After that, I started the divorce proceedings with a lawyer involved. Ethan apparently made quite a fuss. This has nothing to do with you. Cornered, Ethan apparently said such a thing to the lawyer. However, the lawyer lightly brushed him off. I certainly have no relationship with you, but I've been hired by your wife. And I know how to take you to court and force a divorce, even if it's against your will. If you really don't want a divorce, shall we go to court? Your wife has told me that's fine with her. I had predicted that Ethan would make a fuss, so I had told the lawyer that going to court was an option if necessary. Thanks to that, Ethan signed the divorce papers, albeit while crying. And with the divorce successfully finalized, I was finally freed from the shackles of Ethan. After the divorce, Ethan is apparently living frugally while working at an acquaintance's company. However, I heard that since he's no longer my dependent, his burdens have increased and his life has become quite difficult. The neighbors know about Ethan's words and actions towards me, so no one tries to help him. Struggling with loneliness and poverty, Ethan is barely getting by, but this is all his own doing. There's no room for sympathy whatsoever. And currently, I'm living in a condo with Emily. I'm home. I'm tired. Welcome back, Mom. I made dinner. But first, go take a shower and wash off your sweat. Wow, thank you. With the stress of Ethan gone, I was spending every day peacefully. Supporting each other through our busy work, we are living peacefully today as well. I had already contacted Olivia right after the divorce was finalized, and we promised to make time and have a toast together. Looking forward to that day, I'm living my life to the full.